Hello there, very good evening. This is the weekend edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Martin Satyanesan for the News First, where the people come first. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for this evening.
Decision to ground a Russian Aeroflot aircraft sparks concern of a diplomatic row. Russian airlines suspends flights to Colombo. Army officer in parliamentarian M.A. Sumandaran's security detail found dead. Paddy harvest in jeopardy if fertilizer doesn't arrive before 15, Agriculture Ministry warns. Unite to develop Sri Lanka, former Minister Namal Rajapaksa requests. 2 killed, 5 injured as 3 wheel carrying 9 people topples.
Now those stories in detail. An army officer in the security detail of parliamentarian M.A. Sumantiran was found dead with gunshot wounds today. Police are conducting further investigations to confirm whether he had shot himself.
An army officer in the security detail of Tamil National Alliance parliamentarian M.A. Sumantiran was found dead with gunshot wounds. He was a 22-year-old from Wallapani. Police said they found 2 bullets used in a T-56 firearm at the crime scene. This morning, an army officer was found dead with gunshots using his official firearm. This was in a bare land in Wellawattha. Investigations are being conducted to find out whether he had intentionally shot himself or whether there was another reason. In a tweet, parliamentarian M.A. Sumandaran conveyed his deepest condolences to the family of the soldier. After the violence that occurred on May 9th, government parliamentarians requested for additional security. Army officers were stationed at the houses of all parliamentarians. About 6 officers were there opposite my house as well. Once I informed that I don't need an additional security, they left. But I later saw that they were somewhere down the lane and not opposite my house. I heard that one of them had committed suicide at that time.
suicide කරා කියලා තමයි අපිටත් පණිවිඩයක් ඇවිල්ලා. ඒකට මිත්‍රවරුනි කෝ ජාතික ආරක්ෂා මහදවල්.
Where is national security? People are being shot in broad daylight. Where is national security that was promised by President Rajapaksa? We have heard that they are shooting at witnesses in cases involving serious offences. The government must provide security for the 22 million people, just as they are doing for themselves.
Russia's largest airline, Aeroflot, has suspended commercial flights to Colombo. The company says it is unreliable whether they can fly aircraft to Sri Lanka without disruptions. Sri Lanka's foreign ministry stated the matter is under consultation through diplomatic channels.
Russia's foreign ministry said it summoned Sri Lanka's ambassador Janita Liyanage to oppose the detention of an Aeroflot plane in Colombo. On June 2nd, the Colombo Commercial High Court issued an enjoining order preventing a Russian Aeroflot aircraft from leaving Sri Lanka. The case relating to the enjoining order was taken up in court yesterday. Additional Solicitor General Sumathi Dharmawardana told court a fiscal officer had gone to the air traffic control room with the court order and threatened to suspend the flight. The judge then declared that the court had not issued any order to Airport and Aviation Services Limited, the second respondent in the case. 191 passengers and 13 crew members were moved to hotels as the flight was barred from leaving the Bandaranaike International Airport. Home Affairs Minister Dinesh Gunawardena has said Sri Lankan authorities should resolve the issue immediately. He had said action should be taken before any major economic damage occurs between the two countries. What is Aeroflot? Sri Lanka and Russia have had diplomatic ties for almost 65 years now. But a latest decision by airport officials here in Sri Lanka has placed the country in what seems to be a diplomatic crisis. This whole crisis has erupted after airport officials decided that they would ground an Aeroflot aircraft at the Bandaranaike International Airport this week. Aeroflot is Russia's largest airline, and their movements have reduced drastically since the war broke out with Ukraine. As you can see, they are not traveling to some of the countries in the European region which are tourism markets. It is against such a backdrop that Aeroflot has flown one of its aircraft here to Colombo. Why has an Irish company filed a case in court? Companies in Ireland that lease out aircraft to Russian air carriers have not been able to retrieve their aircraft because of the whole sanctions that have been imposed in the country. And now they are taking legal measures in order to recover their aircraft. Were officials aware of the arrival of the flight, and what will happen to Sri Lanka's ties with Russia? Now, Sri Lanka is facing an economic crisis at the moment, and this is why dollars that are flowing into the country is going to be very important. Tourism is obviously one of the main sources of income that generate dollars to Sri Lanka. And Russians occupy a larger market share as far as Sri Lanka's tourism industry is concerned. And this is why every dollar that is received from Russian tourists is going to be very important to Sri Lanka.
Power struggles between nations are a part of today's global affairs, just as it has been in the past. A non-aligned stance is the best approach for Sri Lanka to navigate its way through these tricky waters. Opting otherwise will leave Sri Lanka caught in the midst of the power struggle, having far-reaching consequences for the people. The onus is on those irresponsible officers to act carefully when resolving the country's economic crisis. Failure to do that will result in issues that can last for generations to come.
Ruling party MP and former minister Namal Rajapaksa spoke about the way forward of the country.
So we need to bring everyone together and work on our development agenda, and we help the restructuring part of it. So only way out, whether it's short term, mid term or long term, is to get into manufacturing. Promote Sri Lanka much as you can for tourism, and get our foreign remittance coming to Sri Lanka. Because we can talk many slogans that are popular, but none of those will help stability in our country, especially economically. So we need to be active. Only way forward is to have a progressive dialogue, talk, come into an understanding and move forward, and let the people decide when the time comes to an election.
The shortage of diesel continues to leave people in queues at filling stations.
Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara outlined Sri Lanka's available fuel stocks on Thursday. He said the storage facility contains 18,825 metric tons of diesel, 42 metric tons of super diesel, 33,498 metric tons of octane 92 petrol, and 13,067 metric tons of octane 95 petrol. Although the Energy Ministry says fuel will be supplied to filling stations, there were queues across the country today as well. Some filling stations have not received fuel for many days. Queues for petrol have reduced, although there are long queues for diesel. At some filling stations, there were queues for kerosene. People were seen waiting to purchase diesel from a filling station in Badulla that did not receive fuel today. Some people held a protest near the Hatton filling station today as they had not received kerosene for many days. But they dispersed after police intervened and assured that kerosene would be sold to them.
The gas shortage is another issue affecting the people. Government-run Litro Gas Lanka Limited says it will not distribute gas cylinders tomorrow. Gas cylinders were not distributed to the country today either.
Government-run Litro Gas Lanka Limited has advised people to avoid queuing for gas. The company said a cargo with 2,500 metric tons of gas will reach Sri Lanka tomorrow and that supply would resume after that. Laughs Gas says a cargo of 3,500 metric tons of gas is to reach Sri Lanka today. There were long queues for gas in many areas.
News First with the people.
We'll continue with more local stories after this short commercial break. Stay tuned.
Introducing EVA Heavy Flow Wings with an extended length of 280 millimeters to provide extra protection on days you need it most. And for the first time in Sri Lanka, an antibacterial layer to minimize microbial growth. EVA, leading with confidence.
The Inter-University Students' Federation held a protest against the government.
The Inter-University Students' Federation began a protest march from the Fort Railway Station today. A public petition was signed as part of the demonstration.
They have always looted public funds. Those thieves want to cling on to their positions even when we are demanding them to go home. Ranil Wickremesinghe is protecting Gotabaya Rajapaksa. He said he will solve the people's problems, but the only thing he did was to sell off some islands. Fuel prices went up by about 82 rupees. The cost of bread went up by about 30 rupees. People's lives have been affected badly. We tell Gotabaya Rajapaksa that his time is over. He has to go home. Otherwise, we will join the people and send him home.
A musical event was held expressing dissent against the government.
Demonstrations opposite the President's office demanding President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to step down is in its 56th day. News First Ahmed Buso brings us the latest.
Their demands are loud and clear. They are requesting and demanding the immediate resignation of the president of this country. Despite all odds and despite being attacked, they are still here protesting for their rights, for a better Sri Lanka, for a future for the children of this country. For the News First team, I'm Ahmed Boso reporting to you live from opposite the President's office.
A candlelight vigil was also held at the protest site.
Our country has a massive economic crisis, and this is starting to affect everybody's day-to-day lives. We've had to sit in petrol queues for hours and hours at a time. We no longer cook on gas at our home. People are having to go kind of back in time to cook on wood fires.
It's hard to study when the power's out because I can't use my laptop. I can't see what I'm doing because there's no lights. Travel issues. My mum was waiting in a petrol queue for like 3. So we're here at this protest trying to drive a force to make a change.
I believe that if these politicians are not there, then we can arrange a better Sri Lanka than this.
For now, I have stayed more than 50 days here. I hope that there will be a system change in the country.
Police have arrested 2,393 suspects over the unrest that broke out in Sri Lanka on the 9th of May. Police spokesperson Nihal Thalduwa said 1,055 suspects have been remanded. 26 suspects have been arrested over the attacks on peaceful protests opposite the temple trees and the president's office that day. Sri Lankans are demanding change and accountability over many issues that have affected them. The crisis in the country's agriculture sector is now taking a toll on the country.
The crisis in Sri Lanka's agriculture industry has caused cost of goods to increase. Today, Newsfirst visited a market in Nugegoda to find out the situation on the ground. Traders say they don't bring much stocks like they used to do in the past.
බඩු විකිරෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඊතර බඩු අධික මිලයි මිනිසුන්ට ගන්න සල්ලි නැහැ. 580යි. පට්ටක 500යි. බෝංචි ග්‍රෑම් 100ක් 80යි.
The cost of an egg has gone up to 42 rupees.
ගණන් අහලා යනවා කාල් මාස කිලෝ එක 2500යි. සුදුහල් 230යි, රතු 230යි, නාඩු 240යි.
Adding to the rising cost of living is the rising price of fish. In the market, customers are complaining about the rising prices.
ඇත්තටම ගණන් වැඩි. ඒ දුප්පත් මිනිස්සු ගොඩාක් අසරණයි.
ඒ කඩවල් කාර ඉතුපු ගානට බඩු විකුණන්නේ සිල්ලර කඩේ වුණාට හරි ගානක් නැහැ. ඒක පාලන මිලයක් දාන්න ඕන කිසිම දෙයක් දාන්න.
දැන් අවුරුද්දකට දෙක.
Some people could only afford one meal a couple of years ago. What would be their fate today? How can the poor survive? Income levels haven't gone up. All 225 parliamentarians are the same. No one speaks about our issues.
සිතාම එකයි. එක මිනිහෙක් නෙවෙයි කතා කරන්නේ.
මේ රජය හොඳටම කරයි කියලා තියෙන මිනිසුන්ට වැටිච්ච දින ලින් කබලෙන් උඩට එන්න බැරි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
The shortage of goods and rising prices has raised concerns on how people can afford a balanced diet in the future.
Three-wheel ride ends in a tragedy.
The Agriculture Ministry says paddy cultivation during the yellow cultivation season that runs from May to August is in a crisis.
A senior official at the Agriculture Ministry said farmers have not received enough fertilizer for the yellow season. This has threatened the possibility of a good harvest. The official said cultivations might fail if farmers don't receive fertilizer before the 15th of this month. He added that cultivations can be 50% successful if farmers receive fertilizer on time.
Meanwhile, a national program of food production was held at the Ambalanthutta Divisional Secretariat. Agriculture Minister Mahinda Amaravira attended the event with many other government officials.
We need 110 million to purchase fertilizer for the Maha cultivation season. I obtained this money from the World Bank last week. India buys fertilizer from Oman. India will give us 65% of that. Cultivation has dropped considerably this yellow season. We tabled the proposal to the subcommittee last week to estimate the shortage of rice for the coming months and to import the stocks well ahead. We won't have enough time if we wait till the last moment.
As the event was ongoing, the All Ceylon Farmers Foundation held a silent protest opposite the Divisional Secretariat office. They demanded answers for the problems they face. The protesters remained at the entrance waiting for the minister to leave after the ceremony. However, the minister was not inside his vehicle as it left the premises.
අමරවීර ගොවියන්ට මොහොන දෙන්න ඕන. ගේට්ටුවෙන් එන්න ඕන. අමරවීර පිටිපස්සෙන් පැනලා යනවා පස්සේ මේ කැලෙන් යනවා. වහාම ඔය සාකච්ඡාව අවසන් කළා. මේ ගේට්ටුව ළඟ ගොවියෝ ඉන්නවා. ගොවියොත් එක්ක සාකච්ඡාවට එන්න. අපි අභියෝග කරනවා අමරවීරට. අපිට ප්‍රශ්න ටිකක් තියෙනවා. ඒකට උත්තර දීලා යන්න.
Newsfirst inquired from the minister about this incident.
I did not escape through the back door. The people had already left when I left after the meeting. I sent out a message during the meeting, but they were not interested in discussing matters with me. It's not farmers who are protesting out there. They are members of the Janatha Vimukti Peramuna, so they did not come to discuss matters with me. They are afraid because I will be distributing fertilizer next week. Farmers in Hambantota will receive fertilizer. They are trying to stop that from happening.
Farmers say they are more helpless than the people in the country. Many of them have not begun cultivation for the yellow season that runs from May to August.
Farmers in Min area received water about 3 weeks ago to cultivate their fields. but they say they haven't received fertilizer. Adding to their problems is the shortage of diesel, which is required to run their machines. Some farmers had to spend their night near the Hingurakuda filling station to buy fuel. My machine ran out of diesel and stopped in the middle of the field. I sleep at night near the tractor and join the queue the next morning. That's how I spend my day. Farmers say they can't cultivate during the Yalla season amidst these rising problems. Their plight has raised questions on why authorities have turned a blind eye to the woes of farmers.
Sri Lankan High Commissioner to India, Milinda Moragoda, paid a courtesy call on the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, M.K. Stalin, this morning at the Chief Minister's office in Chennai.
During the discussion, the High Commissioner thanked the Chief Minister and the people of Tamil Nadu for their humanitarian assistance. The Chief Minister responded that he was concerned with the situation in Sri Lanka and had made arrangements to immediately dispatch the first shipment of essential commodities. He added that a second shipment is also in line to be dispatched and that a few more shipments are expected. Highlighting the issues pertaining to fishermen between Tamil Nadu and Sri Lanka, High Commissioner Moragoda requested the Chief Minister to designate a focal point at state level to have a better coordination on all aspects of the relationship between the two states.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe says Sri Lanka must shift from an import-dependent economy to an export-oriented economy. In a statement, the government said the assistance from the IMF is a temporary solution to the economic crisis we are facing. He added that we should use this crisis as an opportunity to boost exports and to ensure a better life. More news follows after this short commercial break.
For the first time in Sri Lanka, EVA unveiled an antibacterial layer to minimize microbial growth and control odor, helping you stay fresher throughout the day. EVA, leading with confidence.
Welcome back to the news. 2 people were killed when a 3-wheeler crashed onto a tree in Udawalawa this morning.
A 3-wheeler travelling from Colombo to Vellavaya had collided with a tree after the driver had fallen asleep. Our correspondent reported that 9 people were travelling in the 3-wheeler. They had been returning home after visiting a relative in Valivaria.
අපේ නින්දේ හිටියේ දඩ වඩාන් ගන්න සද්දයක් වුණා. ඊට පස්සේ මං ගෙදර කට්ටියත් කතා කරගෙන එළියට ඇවිල්ලා එනකොට ළමයි කෑ ගහනවා. දුවලම ආවා. දුවලා ඇවිල්ලා බලනකොට මෙතන වැටලා හිටියා පාරට එක්කෙනෙක්. එයා නම් නැති වෙලා වගේ හිටින්නේ ඇතුලේ ළමයි ගොඩක් හිටියා. ළමයි 5 දෙනෙක් හිටියේ. ඊට පස්සේ ළමයි ටික මං අරන් දුන්නා.
The deceased have been identified as a 44-year-old man and a 6-year-old boy. 4 others who were injured have been admitted to hospitals in Hambantota and Vellavaya.
Youth Speaker Forum 2022 by ISEC Sri Lanka's Youth for Youth was held in Colombo today.
ISEC is a global platform for young people to explore and develop their leadership potential by going on a volunteering or internship exchange. The theme of the event was shaping the youth workforce to steer the development of Sri Lanka.
We may be living in an island that is currently undergoing a very chaotic kind of a crisis, but I feel that within that crisis is where young people, where leaders can really shine. We can do things that we have not even dreamt about.
The difference between economic crisis LK, which is the hashtag that's trending, and system change, a lot of people, if the economic crisis was sorted out, would not want system change as much as they want the economic crisis sorted out. But it's the young people that have surprised me, because the young people are the ones who are driving the call for system change.
You have to understand the world is changing, especially the pandemic changed the way that we work, the way that we need to look at business, the way we drive business. So be relevant by trying to understand the new concepts.
None of our generations have faced COVID, economic crisis like this. The way we did business 2 years ago is not the way we are doing business now, and not exactly the way we are going to do business in future as well. Everyone is now talking about digital age. Everyone is talking about how can we contribute, what are the new opportunities coming in. But have you acquired that knowledge? You need to be really ready with the new digital era.
Several activities were also organized following the panel discussion.
Another phase of the Divi Savya program to distribute dry rations among families in need was held in the Gampaha district today. The program is sponsored by LOLC Holdings.
The
Divisavia program, sponsored by LOLC Holdings, entered its 25th day today. Two teams distributed dry rations among many Grama Niladhari divisions in the Gambaha district. The Divisavia program aims at supporting low-income families amidst the economic crisis.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Primetime News on TV Bond. For details of the stories and much more, simply log on to our website, www.newsfirst.lk. I'm Martin Satyanesan for the News First, where the people come first. You take care and good night.